This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scotland Pike. It's always a pleasure to be the host of this show, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, how are we?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, all good here. Quite the weekend of racing, was it? Quite a lot of big surprises that have shaken up, lots of markets, which was much needed. So I think it makes things a lot more interesting going into Christmas.
It does, yeah. On the weekend, how was it from a punting point of view?
Quite quiet, to be honest. Didn't do much. There's not a lot of great prices and value there. I don't think I'm the only person thinking that. So best policy is to kind of generally stay away. Friday was okay. Saturday it was just all kind of middling and flatlining. So yeah, I mean the justice payouts and Shishkin kind of saved the day that day, and I was fine by the end of it. And Sunday I didn't really play much at all. So yeah, quite quiet all round. Friday was a bit poor. Saturday was a bit better, and Sunday was quite quiet. One play each way. In the pair top when it placed third, and that was fine. So yeah, slightly up, but it wasn't any kind of it was never going to be anything great or disastrous the way I could have played it.
Yeah, I'd probably go along with that. It was fairly even, to be honest. I didn't really lose, didn't really win, but we certainly have a lot of talking points to address over the show. Let's start with some questions. We put the word out. We got a few questions in. First of all, how much has the Gold Cup landscape dramatically changed over the past few days, with Bravemansgame and Galopin de Champs both being beat and Fast or Slow emerging? Callum, I want to kind of leave the John Durkin and the Betfair Chase. I don't want to really get into them until we get into the recap. But in terms of not just the Gold Cup but the King George, this weekend we've seen a dramatic change in the betting for it. Like, it's difficult to assess because is Fast or Slow a Gold Cup contender? Can you forgive Bravemansgame? There's so many questions, but as a whole, is it valid that all these kind of concerns are being raised about was the Gold Cup too much of a test last year? Are horses not up to scratch so far? There's a lot to ask.
There is. I think the Gold Cup form isn't quite working out as well as most people expected it to. Maybe that's because of the nature of the race. It was kind of, it was an attritional contest. It was truly run. Hewitt was up there, Hoy Senior was up there, set a reasonable gallop, and Galopin de Champs came from, well off the pace to win that day. And there's different theories to certain horses why they're disappointing. I mean, I think there's more forgiveness towards Galopin de Champs than there is Bravemansgame at the moment. Yeah. That's reflected in the Gold Cup market. But, Jerry Colom's came out, proved himself in open company. Fast or Slow's proved that Punchestown was no fluke. And all four of them are they're definitely in the top end of the Gold Cup conversation. As for the King George, it's completely blown that market absolutely wide open. Bravemansgame, probably the weakest of the four that we've mentioned, the top of the Gold Cup market.
Do you think so?
By a distance, yeah. By a distance. Out of those four, he's definitely got the worst chance, and he's got the most questions to answer, without a doubt. He's still the favourite for the King George now. I know it's his hunting ground and stuff, but he's got a lot more to prove, and he's still kind of a very weak favourite now. And you've got all these other kind of sharks from outside, Irish chatter of all sorts coming over for this now, and really fancying their chances of taking him down. So that has completely thrown that market into flux as well. And of course, to throw in a fifth would be Shishkin, who also has answers to questions. So your established players have got questions to prove now, and your emerging stars are actually beginning to prove themselves, which is tightened the market dramatically.
If I was to give you a fiver free bet, win only for the Gold Cup right now at the prices, who would it be?
At this stage, it'd be Jerry Colom.
Right, okay, interesting. Next question, on to a novice who caught the eye over the weekend. Where will Gaelic Warrior end up at the Cheltenham Festival? Will he go Brown Advisory? Could they keep him at the kind of minimal distance of the turners? Could he even go for a strongly paced Arkle? What's your thoughts?
he looks like a Turner's horse all day long to me at the moment. But he's the exuberant style of racing. It's very kind of Galopin Deschamps light of when he emerged. And I know he's won a 3 mile novice round Punchestown, but I don't think there'll be much kind of interest. I mean, Willie Mullins even touted going back down Tripman. He could run in an Irish Arkle, something like that. I mean, it was quite a sensational debut, was it? But he's such a tearaway. I mean, Paul Townend had to kind of give up, try and control him, and the race was over by the fifth. He can take the odd chance at one, and you do worry about him going the other way round, of course. And you still would, to be honest. But yeah, to imagine it would be Leopardstown at Christmas, and maybe the Irish Arkle. Get the racing post novices chase, but Facile Vega going there. Do they really want to run both of them in the same race? I mean, Willie Mullins has to run. I mean, he did it last year, didn't he? When we worked out that El Fabiola was top of the pecking order, so he might do it again. But just because how ferocious Gaelic Warrior is, you would be a bit worried that Paul Townend might not ride him next time out, and that would be a bit of a concern. He seems to take a lot of going, and he's a brave man to kind of try and harness that energy at the moment.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I was kind of doing a wee bit of looking at the entries for Christmas period, and he's as it stands, he's 4-7 to win the 14 novices chase at Limerick. But as you say, it's very unlikely that Townend would ride him if he went there.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be at Leopardstown, won't he? He'll be based there at Christmas, so he won't go to Limerick. So I mean, you're either looking at Patrick Mullins, Danny Mullins would probably go there. He'll send his second, maybe even third best string jockey there, and he might send something over to Kempton for Boxing Day for maybe the King George. Given his preference to go right-handed, the Cato Star wouldn't be completely without his reach at all. Even in a stunning debut like that with the King George, widely open as a novice. If you had absolutely nothing else, you went a powerhouse stable. You can do it, Coney Green, and chuck this guy into open company if you wanted to. I think he's that forward and that good already.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into talking about his performance in the recap. Final question: who is your ultimate jump racing dream interview?
Oh, I think I had to take a seasoned kind of expert. Probably Nicky Henderson, given his age and how much stories he could probably tell you. His experience of like training top class horses. So yeah, he would definitely be up the sharp end of the list, I would think.
I've got three, and they're different. Before touching on this, and one of them, I know he's not a jump jockey, but have you been watching Frankie on I'm a Celebrity?
No, I don't watch that.
Have you not?
No, I don't watch that rubbish, to be honest.
He's been quite fascinating on it, actually. Yeah, but I would quite like to speak to somebody like Ruby's obviously one. Like Ruby, people know how much a Ruby mark I am. Ruby Walsh would be one. I would probably say maybe an old timer, maybe a Jenny Pittman or something, just being that figure back in the day. She obviously won the Grand National in the days where kind of women trainers were hard to come by. Blackmore would be another one as well. So I think that they would be the kind of standout three for me. Well, send your questions in. If you've got a question, then send it in the comments below or send it to us via private message. And we'll move into what's quite a busy recap. Starting in Thursday in Thurles, we had a really nice beginner's chase debut for Classical Dream, who I thought jumped really well. Again, just showing he is a grade one hurdler, making his start over fences. They have tried over the past few years to make him a chaser. For one reason or another, it hasn't happened. But now they've got a beginner's chase into him, and I thought it was as good a start as you could hope for with him.
Yeah, he's got a lovely jumping technique. Question what he beat in behind, obviously, as you can do with pretty much all of these beginners' chases. But yeah, very stylish. He's a very classy sort. It's taken a while to get his chasing career off because they just haven't been able to keep him sound for a full season. Yeah. They're finally beginning to get a clear run at him. I think Brown Advisory's likely. I don't think. I mean, if Gaelic Warriors going Turners, which I would think would be likely, I don't think they'll put these two together.
No.
I think Brown Advisory possible. I know there's stamina doubts over hurdles, 3 miles in the stairs hurdle where he didn't quite get home. I think he can relax a bit more over fences with his technique, and I think that'll help him. And I think it's got to be a bit of a jumping test, and the old track's a little bit sharper. And we know he's got pace. He's a supreme winner, so yeah, it's just whether his age will catch up with him and whether he's going to get there. That's that's enough to put anyone off at the moment, I would think. But yeah, he's definitely on the radar, and it's a classier. It's kind of these classier types that are coming to the fore, Flown Porter as well. And maybe that's what the Brown Advisory is going to turn into a little bit more for the more experienced novices down the line, rather than throwing in a really good kind of talented sort quite quickly. You need to be pretty robust and experienced now, I think, to be a full factor in the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was really good. Friday, we'll start in Ascot, a horse I want to get your thoughts on. We haven't seen him in 2 years, but he showed that he was still able to put in a seriously good performance. A horse we've liked for a long time. Doddy the Great for Nicky Henderson. Beat in the Waterside, who I thought ran terrible, to be honest, but really good to see Doddy the Great back up and running, and hopefully we see a lot more of him.
We will, yeah. He had a severe tendon injury and came back from the brink. Apparently, when all his prize-winning money goes to My Doddy Weir Foundation, the fight against MND, so he's got £25,000 in the bank now. He's unbeaten 4 from 4, and I think he's going to go in and make up for lost time here, because he won that pretty stylishly. He was entitled to need it. It's pretty highly touted, albeit disappointing. Paul Nicholls' horse that he's beaten there in the Waterside. He kind of pulled it out the fire when he badly needed to run at Chepstow here. There was no excuses. Probably needs to go up and trip, but he was still kind of well beaten. He's going to go the 2 mile handicap route, and the ultimate goal is the Scottish champion hurdle heir, according to Kenny Alexander. So definitely keep an eye out for him down the line in the spring for these 2 mile handicaps.
Yep, absolutely. We'll move into Fairyhouse. A few to mention. We will start with Better Days Ahead, who made up for his fall at Down Royal. Again, it was a really easy performance. Made all, you could argue, what he's beat in behind, but it sounds really cliche, but better days are ahead with this guy, the looks of it.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be a better chaser than a hurdler down the line. But yeah, he's entitled to a chance in Albert Bartlett at the moment. He made amends for his last day. He jumped pretty cleanly, soundly, pulled away quite well after the last. Suggests that Stammer is going to be a strong suit. And he's another decent novice hurler for Gordon Elliott down the line. He's pulled out some pretty impressive ones at the start of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the beginner's chase that was won by a talking horse going into this race. I don't think a lot of people will be talking about him positively after this. It was Mr. Policeman. He won at 4-9, made hard work of it. There was a lot of horses in behind that he really, if he was as good as the hype suggested, should have been beaten comfortably. He's only beat his stablemate and same owners, Fou de Brazil, 3/4 of a length. He should be beating them more than that if he's an Arkle contender. I think he's one of the ones. He's went back the way in estimations after that.
Yeah, and he beat Cashback and reappearance, which kind of put everyone on alert on him. That his jump was sluggish. It was very workmanlike. He probably did quite well to get back up the running and win. But his stablemate's rated 129, and his jumping was a lot better. Maybe he's improved a bit, but it's a long way off Arkle standard, isn't it? Yeah, maybe be better seen in a better light and going up and trip. And what Willie Mullins does is that he probably will throw him up into one of these grade races and see where he's at. But it's hard to have any confidence in him at the very top level after a performance like that.
Yep. Nice horse won the bumper, probably one of the best bumper performances we've seen so far this season. It was for Emmett Mullins. Jeroboam Machine beat a fancy Gordon Elliott horse, DB Cooper, beat him by 4 lengths. Looked a really nice performance, had to work hard, but he could be one for a bumper in March.
Yeah, DB Cooper was a highly touted Gordon Elliott horse. It was a horse that sank me in the Friday, to be honest. I did have some decent multiples rolling on him, and in the end he didn't quite deliver. He was under pressure a long way out. It was slowly run, didn't suit him. Didn't suit the winner either, but trainer Emmett Mullins suggested that he's going straight over hurdling, so hold fire on any champion bumper bets with him.
Interesting. Let's move into Haydock. We'll start with the Graduation Chase. This Frank's the Stay Away Fae form really well. Grey Dawning beat Gaillard de Menil and Apple Away. I really liked this performance. Now, I did fancy the horse out the 3 in the betting. I thought it was a really good 2-1 bet. This was a really good performance. It just made all, attacked everything, made a few mistakes, but also jumped really well. And I don't think it certainly didn't suit Gaillard de Menil, and Apple Away I just don't think's that good, to be honest. But Grey Dawning could be a good one.
Yeah, in Apple we kind of stole the kind of Sefton from the front. This was difficult enough to picture in first time out. It didn't quite work out. I think she's a kind of marathon horse. Maybe they need to kind of get experience in her and take her time. She could end up in a Scottish National, for instance.
Yeah,
The
possibly.
only thing I can see her running at Cheltenham is a National Hunt chase. You know, something like when Miss Parfois back in the day ran well, and I think Stammer is what she's kind of all about. And of course, it's her first time out in a race where Gardnerill's rated 150. I don't know. It's not quite. He's not quite, up to that standard because it was
Don't
a
think he
pipe
looked fit
opener.
either.
It was a pipe opener, wasn't it? The National's the goal for him coming back there, and it's a trip that's way too short for him. But it's still a good level to try and at least get to. Grey Dawning, like most skeletons, are improving for a run, big time. They'll go Warwick probably with him. Maybe take in the Reynolds Town or something, and I think they'll probably skip Cheltenham, and I think they'll go for Aintree.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Let's move into the Stairs Handicap Hurdle. We saw Slate Lane win this pretty well, but obviously has been, I think it's a career ender by the sounds of it. It's looked a really bad one. Any horses maybe you take out of this? I know you quite liked one in this for a potential race at Cheltenham.
Yeah, I think Bolden Devil's shaping up quite well, and Nicky Henderson's already kind of moaned about his mark a little bit, so it's operation bring it down as much as possible. Spring, he's just an admirable horse that runs his race. I mean, he was fifth there. It was pretty unsuitable for him again, but he is very consistent, and he might be one of these that's too consistent for his own good a little bit, and that's what keeps him kind of highly rated. But he's what about 143 if he can get it dipping towards 140 or so, then I think he's one to consider, probably one of many at the moment to consider for a Pertomp final.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move into the Betfair Chase, the big race of the day. It was won by Royal Pagaille, beating Bravemansgame. Last year's winner Protectorat ran really bad. Let's kind of dissect this. Like, obviously, the main talk is Bravemansgame. On a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointing is it? Because for me, I think there's excuses for not winning at Wetherby. He didn't jump the last. He looked as if he needed the run. On Saturday, seemed to do everything right. Jumped really well as he always does. And he just didn't want to get by Royal Pagaille. Not that he probably would have anyway, but he just looked lethargic. I don't think you can blame the jockey either. I think the jockey knew at some point he was done as well. But I just think with Bravemansgame, I thought it was a terrible decision going there anyway, and I don't change my opinion on that. But my conclusion is that I don't think he's a 3-miler.
And the plan was to run one or the other, Wetherby or Haydock, not both.
Yeah.
So let's butchered it straight away. I thought the Wetherby run was. I thought there was reasonable grounds for a little bit of optimism in that, in the way that he jumped well, he travelled well, he emptied towards the finish, and he wasn't really asked a great deal at the finish. Here, he's been outstayed and outfought. Again, that's kind of his Achilles heel a little bit. I thought Johnny Deneen was actually pretty good in this on Tuesday in upping the ante in the way that he kind of sees, the Gold Cup trip probably affecting him because he's tried his heart out to the line but didn't stay.
Yeah.
And that's him going to the red zone a little bit, and you can see off the bridle the answer's not there. Now, Wetherby travelled well enough to think, I can win this, still zest. At Haydock, he didn't have the same kind of level of confidence at all coming up the home straight. And it was a truly run race, partly because Protectorat refused to settle and jump like he jumped as if he had a space hopper underneath him, giving him so much air, and he just can never relax. And you knew your fate quite quickly with him. He was never going to maintain the gallop at all there. So that might be worth forgiving for some slightly down the line. But that horse probably does have a ceiling. In Bravemansgame, he just knew he wasn't going to win that battle. Even Rob Pagaille, he's very good. There was money for him late on as well.
Yeah.
And Haydock specialist, he picked up the pieces in the King George a little bit when placing. He's not out of the equation again if it turns soft there at 14s or 16s. He'd be one of a lengthy list of each way candidates in that race down the line. He's the one that's kind of held his form reasonably well in all these big races when others kind of although they've got greater peaks, I've definitely had bigger troughs than him. He's kind of a consistent horse. So full credit to the winner for making it a stamina slog that suited him. And and with Bravemansgame, Paul Nicholls has got his work cut out to bring him. It would be a magnificent training performance, and certainly rectify any mistakes in the build up if he brought him back to win a King George. It's possible, but it's just very hard to see after 2 runs like that.
Yeah, we have to give a mention as well. I thought Conrad Rambler for a comeback run ran okay.
Yeah, it was better than Kelso. They did enough to glean from. He's just in that bracket where he's going to be very hard to place. They know he's not Grade 1 material, but he'll probably go to the Gold Cup. They can't run him in the handicap, even though we've got a handicap runner of 173 on Saturday. He's not going to go Ultima route. So yeah, we'll run him in the Gold Cup, and if he stays on late in the piece, he could do what Noble Yates did, and maybe nick a place at a big price if they all keep faltering. He'll stay on 4th or 5th, and then it's a good prep for the Grand National either way. So these are the kind of high 150s, low 160s horse. That's the kind of route you have to go. Either that or the cross country. And Corrick Ramble is probably a little bit too slow for a cross country at the moment. I would definitely have a pop at the Gold Cup with him. And he's a better spring horse as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of encouragement there, because I think there's a lot of hearts and
There's
mouse
a lot
about
of doubts, yeah.
where this horse really is at. But he showed a bit of spark, and that's exactly what you want to see.
Yep, absolutely. We'll move into Ascot. We'll start with the performance in the Novices Limited Handicap Chase. It was won by Shanty Classical for Kim Bailey. We both texted each other after this race, and we both had a target immediately for where this horse was going to go. Does Happy Go Lucky ring a bell here?
He does. I think Happy Go Lucky might be a bit better horse than him, though. He strikes me as a more kind of obvious candidate for this. Yeah, but he does have a kind of an Ultima project written all over him, doesn't he? He won with a bit up his sleeve. Good battle harn, staying kind of novice tight. That's kind of avoiding these kind of big graded classes at flashier places. Yeah, he's one that you think would sneak under the radar, but in a season of tight prices, tight markets like this, I doubt that he will. I think quite a few people will have him in the tracker, and whenever the Ultima market opens, he'll be in the top 4 or 5.
I think he will as well. Let's move into the 1965 Chase. The race that wasn't, it was won by Pictori, but that does not tell the whole story of this race. Shishkin done his best me on a Saturday afternoon in front of the telly impression. Just didn't want to go. It was that simple. Just dug his heels in, and I think I would be worried. I would have been worried about that if Nicky Henderson obviously doesn't think there's an issue if he's, as you say, going to run him off 172 on Saturday.
Yeah, well, he just needs to get a run into him, basically. That's at the order of the day, whether he wins or whether he not. Whether he pulls up. They just need to get a serious bit of work into him, because that wasn't the plan.
Typical, wasn't it? It's just
well, by the time the 1965 Chase was on, everyone was fed up, and so was Shishkin. I think by this, and this race needs. I don't understand why we've got the Betfair Chase and this on the same meeting anymore, same day. The Gold Cup route is go to Weatherby or go to Haydock, Kempton, or the Cotswold Chase. Gold Cup. That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need. This race used to be 2 mile 3.
Yeah,
it needs to go back to that. It needs to be cutting distance, and that's it, because it's such a cop out to go here, and it's an option, It's kind of or the calendar you could scrap it altogether. Strofan Jack almost made a race of this. It was upsized Pictori for doing, and then obviously the class kept in, and he's now in each way chance at Kempton for a King George. He is progressing a little bit. I don't think he's quite up to that standard, and stamina will be a bit of a doubt. He's not going to get that freebie kind of luxury, but it's one of those kind of soft grade 2s that turn up with 3 or 4 races that we just simply don't need anymore.
No, absolutely. I don't think you can take much of this at all. I think Pictori is that old kind of hitman style. Like he'll pick up these grade 2s, and that'll be him. Maybe not as good as Suriname, but that kind of idea of they'll just go where.
He's of surname makeup, but of hitman ability, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let's move into the Coral Hurdle, another Grade 2 that it was actually quite a decent finish, to be fair. Goshen, just forget about him. If I ever see anyone back in Goshen again, I'll shout at him because he's gone, done. Blue Kangaroo for Paul Nicholls. Harry Cobden looks quite a shrewd man here for going to ask it instead of Bravemansgame because he's a few winners.
Yeah, give more chances here. You can't go up to go and run one when you've got, six, seven good chances and winning four of them there. Although Friday didn't go to plan for him because he didn't win a race that day, so it might have been a bit of nerves going into that. I was surprised. He's progressing quite quickly. I did back him at Cheltenham. I didn't fancy him for this at all. I thought
didn't fancy him for this
too many kind of good ones there. I was on Theatre Glory, who I don't know if he needed it, but I mean, I don't know what Nico de Boinville was waiting on, sitting there, and the other two just pulled away, and that distance just maintained. I maybe expected it to be more of an armchair ride than expected, but maybe she needed the run and didn't quite find as much as anticipated. This horse is coming through the ranks pretty rapidly. Connections mentioned Stairs Hurdle. I'd be amazed that for a 4-year-old going 5, I would be very surprised if he's good enough right now, and I'd be pretty surprised if he is good enough in the future. Yeah, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked at that. I would think, but again, he's another one of these where you get hit the one kind of 50 mark, and then all of a sudden there's these Grade 2s that can be plundered left, right, and centre. And that's where he can go and make hay. So at least it's a horse for that.
Yeah. Let's move into the handicap chase, the Jim Barry that was won by Boot Hill. This was a sickener for me, an absolute sickener. I was on Saint Seagal and I thought I was on a winner. Did what they usually did, fall at the last. But Boot Hill, he's an honest horse. He's going to win these types of handicaps. He's going to win good kind of Grade 2s if they come up. I thought it was quite interesting that they immediately said we're going to go Tingle Creek.
Yeah, I think the Clarence House is a main idea with him because he does really enjoy going around Ascot, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
And he is improving. And again, once you hit that rating, you've got to kind of go to these places, and that's what they're doing. So fair play to them, and he's toughing it out quite well. There was always kind of a hint of a horse being there. He ran John Bond quite close, and people thought that's a bit of a surprise. But he's backed it up well. He's going through the ratings well. I didn't fancy him off 155. I thought that was a bit too much of an ask. But he's consistent, and he did definitely tough it out well. Even though Saint Seagal, who actually does, looking back in his history, actually does have a good completion record, but he can clout a couple. I've seen it before, so yeah, I wasn't surprised. Wasn't overly surprised with that. Funambly Civil, I think, might have been a project for for a Desert Orchid, something like that. But
possibly,
he couldn't get to the front, and he kind of gone sour. And with Venetia Williams' yarn form was a little bit disappointing in that because the wind up I don't think's quite worked for him. I wonder if he's permanently on the downgrade.
Moving into Punchestown, a few horses to mention. 3-year-old Maiden Hurdle was won really well by Mighty Bandit for Gordon Elliott. I think this was probably the most impressive juvenile performance so far, even including Burdett Road. I thought this guy jumped really well. I thought he just looked as if he'd a real turn of foot. And I also think the second for Joseph O'Brien could be a Boodles contender. That take a lot from this race.
It's one of those races where it's Boodles in behind and the winner's allowed to kind of look a bit better than he actually is, in my opinion. There wasn't a lot of effort in behind, I don't think. And Mighty Bandit's put in a very good performance. He's been asked a question off the bridle and he's responded quite swiftly. I wouldn't necessarily swap him for Burdett Road or Calaconte, actually, for that matter. I think it's another kind of very good juvenile debut to take of note, but I wouldn't be 16s is reasonable enough. But yeah, he didn't take my eye out as much as some people's, but it was a solid performance. So he's definitely going to go. He's going to go up to bigger and better things, and he'll be up to grade next.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Another really good performance I thought was Predators Gold for Gigginstown and Willie Mullins. Still weird seeing that combination. Won by 6 lengths. I thought, again, over 2 mile 3, another Bartlett contender. He's up towards the top of the market for the Albert Bartlett. He screams that to me already.
With Tilly Hill disappointing, he probably vaults up there. I thought it was pretty impressive. I thought he showed decent pace as well. Yeah, Ballymore or Bartlett, isn't it, for him? He has to be quite high in the radar, given Mullins has had quite a few kind of odds-on shots beat. His strike rate's still decent, but his better ones seem to be needing the run at the moment. Paul Townend even suggested afterwards that there is plenty more to come from him. It's usually a good race as a pointer towards Albert Bartlett by setting early markers. Sometimes it's not sustained, but yeah, he's got to be very high up on the agenda, particularly when Tilly Hill was near the top of that market and he bombed out badly. He also looked like a non-stayer. He must fall above him. So yeah, out of the Mullins.
The winner of Tully Hill's race is one to take as well, Shannon Royale.
No, he's exposed, and even a Gornelli afterwards said 3 mile handicapper.
Yeah.
No. I mean, yeah, if it's a really weak Albert Bartlett where it pays to be battle hardened and you can be rated in the 140s, high 140s or something like that, you can get away with it. But I don't see it at the moment. No, I don't think so. But out of the Mullins Brigade, I think him and Il Atlantique have been the two most impressive.
Interesting. We've kind of spoke about Gaelic Warrior. Anything like Gaelic Warrior, when you look at his win, he's beat some decent horses in there, and he's beat them by, you know what I mean? He's beat them carrying everything. Like Cool Survivor in there was a decent horse. Figaro was another one. He has blitzed a field with ease.
Yeah, it's one of those wow factor moment beginners chasing start of a debut. He has a tearaway though. I mean, and he does get low, and he takes a chance, and it's a bit harem scarum, but you cannot fault the engine there.
No.
It's frightening. It is monstrous stuff. The figure they produced, I think, was the third best kind of novice chasing debut of the millennium, really, turn of the century. So it's highly impressive, but you can't get away from there are obvious quirks in there, and it's Cheltenham would probably be completely unsuitable for him, given his style of racing, and it's going to be more pronounced over fences than it is over hurdles. And okay, right-handed there, but he's been pulled to the outside and he's tore away and he's logged straight to the right rail, and that's kept him straight, and it's kept him honest there. He's that good that he might be able to get away with it. That's how talented he is, but you're already taking 3-1 for a Turner's right now.
Have you backed him yet?
Absolutely not.
No,
I don't think I ever will at Cheltenham, to be honest. You could take a chance at him at a price, at the left-handed thing, but at the Ballymore there was money for him, and he was never going to beat him. He was never in my radar.
He ran a stormer in the Ballymore though.
He ran a stormer because he got a brilliant ride in between the rail and a stablemate, and he got terrific cover. And once he was out in the open, he logged right enormously again.
Yeah.
And those things, all the brilliance and all the ferocious engine work and everything that is undoubted talent, those things in the back of your mind have to stay there, particularly when you're betting 3-1 for a Turners in end of November.
Yeah, I know that's the thing for me. Like you can if it was,
and it's a good division as well. It does threaten to cut up quite often, but it is shaping up to be pretty decent division here. Classical Dream could drop back here. Gordon Elliott might have 2 or 3 here. All of a sudden, in the pocket might come here. There might be a British one down the line that drops here. You just don't know. And also, Willie Mullins could miss a policeman. Disappointing. He might need to go up and trip. Rich Ritchie might want this guy to go for the Arkle and come down and trip. You wouldn't be sure how to pigeonhole him trip wise at this moment. And Willie Mullins has also got to develop his own pecking order. So while I think Turner's is an 80% chance to go there, and I think it's definitely the most likely, those right-handed quests, you have to see him go left-handed, and if he's straightened up, then yeah, it's all systems go, and he's going to be 6-4, isn't he? But it's a big if, and his overall body of work suggests that he's not quite that tractable yet to fully trust, particularly the prices that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I think he's one of those, like, as you say, he's that type of price that now he's never going to be any shorter unless he completely bombs out. But again, if he wins, you would be like, yeah, that's not a surprise. But also, do you have the confidence in him to go at that shorter prices? Because I don't. Because again, I've been burned before in the Boodles where he should have won by numerous lengths, but obviously let him down. And last year, obviously, he ran a stormer, but as you say, he had kind of everything on his side. But he's one of those, I think, I would look to oppose him at every opportunity, especially around Cheltenham. But we'll move into the Florida Peril Novices Chase. I think this race has brought more questions than answers. Was won really well by Favore de Champdou. He looks to be kind of heading the market for the National Hunt Chase. Few in behind to mention, but we'll start with the winner. Favore de Champdou looks to be an out-and-out stayer and right National Hunt Chase favourite.
I prefer Salvador Ziggy personally.
Okay.
If he went there, maybe Salvador Ziggy would be the one if it's better ground. If it was heavy ground, probably this fella. He jumped well, cleanly. They were confident reversing the form with Affordale Fury. I think by even running here,
he ran atrocious. There's something up there.
Yeah, he bombed out. He did that last season and came back well, Albert Bartlett. So I wouldn't completely dismiss him. Something's obviously come amiss there. And from a long way out, Sam Ewing was looking at him and wondering there, and I was surprised he didn't bother pulling him up. Probably should have. I wasn't quite happy with that. I don't think ask him to the line for no real reason, to be honest. I think it would have been better if they kind of pull him up and see for another day for sure. So yeah, there's a question mark over him, but he can bounce back. He did it last year. The winner was good, jumped well, solid, more straightforward, tractable. I think Standard Clegane needs better ground, but he might not be. I don't
think he's grade one level
material over fences anyway. He needs better ground. He was probably exposed for what he can is, which is a decent horse, but not quite a top notcher.
Next one, Flooring Porter.
Why is he going right hand? They're talking about Gaelic Warrior. I mean, one way.
He ran well when you consider like everything was against him. He hung left. I think he's ran quite well.
We've seen this movie before over hurdles going this way. I was pretty surprised that they tried to replicate it over fences, connections, particularly knowing what he's like. He was kind of following the loose horse mainly, and he did really well to be as close as he was. He's still a player in this Brown advisory market for sure. 16s isn't bad. Each way, if you're having a bet on it, he's probably the way to go.
I think
he's going to have one more run and then go. He's definitely going to go there. And he acts in Cheltenham well, so he won in C&D there over fences, and of course he's a 2-time Stayers hurdle winner. So him stay away Faye, possibly Classical Dream. It's still shaping up to be a good race for sure. A couple other bits in there as well. You'd think Favore de Champdou, he is going to be a National Hunt Chase horse, I think, down the line. Gordon Elliott touts that out early. People are going to cotton on to it. So, given the certainty that he'll go there, not for Salvador Ziggy, that's probably why he's favourite at this point. But I think they're both quite closely matched.
Morgana Hurdle was won again by Stateman. That is his 5th Grade 1 out of 6. So, he's a brilliant horse, but did we learn anything?
That's the thing, poor old Stateman, he'll go and win all this time. And I actually give him enormous credit, when a lot of, you've had Galopin, Deschamps, and, Bravemansgame, very good horses blotting their copybook all week. Mullins Yard not firing in all cylinders.
Certainly not.
He's come out there against 2 mid-150 horses, but race fit from the Cesarewitch and things like that, and from the flat, and he's come out with minimal fuss and done the job and as market expectations. So he's just because he's in the shadow of Constitution Hill means he doesn't get all the credit he deserves, but he is a solid mid-60s horse that runs his rating all the time. He might have improved a little bit as well. I think he's still second best playing Constitution Hill. He still might be that way after the weekend. Who knows? But it'll take something very, very special from Imperi Pass to force Paul Townend off him. Just because, the clamour for Imperi Pass is because Stateman's been beaten by Constitution Hill and looks like he won't get anywhere near him. Got to remember, this is a really good horse that's winning everything else, fairly comfortably. He's put Pied Piper away. He was race fit. He was second a county hurdle off a big mark. As if he wasn't there, and that's a reappearance run that he's expected to come on from. I thought it was a good performance. I think he should be. I still think he should be clear second favourite for the Champion Hurdle, but I do think that if the Champion Hurdle was run on the old course rather than the new course, it would suit him much, much more.
We'll move into Sunday. We'll start in court. One horse to mention, a horse that I think we both like. Halka Do to Bear for Gordon Elliott and Kenny Alexander won at 4-7 by 20 lengths in a Mare's Beginner's Chase. She's now into 10-1 for the Mare's Chase. You like this horse?
I do. I've liked her for a long time. I just haven't had the confidence to come on here and tip her up for the Mare's Chase. But I would now, obviously. That market it was a search for kind of the Springer, and she was it. She had this kind of one good point-to-point background. The second one at Market Race in the Summer Plate this year as well. She had good mares novice form over it, totally inadequate 2 miles over hurdlers. She was a chaser. She was a 2.5 mile chaser. Had the odd dodgy run here, there. But I mean, any horse can be excused that at the young stage of their career. And she jumped really well. Decent enough field in behind. Willie Mullins' horse, Night and Day, okay, weakened out of it a little bit, but was still there 2 out, and the further she went, the better she looked. Jordan Gainford said there's plenty more to come. Yeah, and she's each way threat to 2. I would say pretty ropey favourites in the Mare's Chase. 1 in stamina grounds and 1 in form grounds and sustainability grounds, I would think. I think she's my Mare's Chase horse at the moment. Problem is, Gordon Elliott could go. The novice route's always an option there. And the Mare's Allowance and Novice Company as well could be utilised, but he does have his best horses seem to be middle distance horses at the moment for the turners. I mean, they're thinking about putting Imagine up in trip, and you've got American Mike and Found the 50 as well. So I don't think there'll be much clamour for her to go into the turners right now, unless things started falling apart for those 3. So I think she's a big play in the Mare's Chase. If he can get 12s, I don't think it's bad.
Did you like Imagine on Sunday as well in the Craddockstown?
No, I don't think he's good enough to be winning Grade 1s. Scrambled and needs further. They were talking Cato Star, in the rumour like Jerry Colon, they were talking about him going way up and trip for the Cato Star and obviously chasing, running Jerry potentially in the King George. No, I think there's a hint of we're finding his ceiling there. I'd be surprised if he was good enough come spring to win a Grade 1.
Let's move into the John Durkin. Won by Fast or Slow. Again, like the Betfair Chase, there's just so many angles to go for here. Willie Mullins had 5 in the race and didn't win it out of 6. That just shows you. But we'll start with the winner, Fast or Slow. Is he a serious Gold Cup player?
Yes.
Think so?
Absolutely, yeah. If you think it's a fluke the last time in the Punchestown Gold Cup, this proved it wasn't. It was run
Jockey dropped the whip as well.
I know, and he won a bit up his sleeve, I thought. I mean, if there was more to be asked, he would have pulled out more. It was unsuitable for Galopin Des Champs, and in fact, it's a slow crawl over, probably slower than his ideal, but at least he's won that race before. If Fast or Slow, this looked a massive negative for him. He proved he was more than up to it. Okay, he was more prominent than Galopin Des Champs, and he was outpaced by the leader that got his own way in front, and there was money for it as well. So he was appreciated. It was the one of the Mullins Brigade that was up to speed for this.
I thought he ran well. He's not Grade 1 level. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think you can throw him in a Gold Cup or a Champion Chase. He's probably right there, but I don't think he's good enough. But races like this, I think he's going to deceive you. He's going to run well. He's never going to win a Grade 1, I don't think.
He had everything his own way and still couldn't get it done. I know even, but I mean, he was the lowest rated. He was what 152.
Was he?
Going into it. So I mean, I didn't see the thinking there. I think they've kind of tried to nab a Grade 1 with him and justify him to go into Ryanair. They've blown a handicap there by that performance, and they've not won it. He'd everything his own. I mean, that's team tactics. That's. I mean, this result is arguably a great one for racing that Willie Mullins didn't win this, because that was obvious team tactics at play here. If you look at the form book and the ratings, you could not make a case for Appreciate It at all.
No.
He's the one that comes in for money, goes off 6-1, and has a complete run of the race and almost steals it. I was pretty glad Fast or Slow went up and won that, but by that account. And he did well to win it, because you think he won't have the tactical speed to win this. Will Galopin Des Champs probably does. He showed a different side to his game there. He has that kind of tactical pace, and I think he proved a lot. And he's still progressing, and he's got less to prove. And he probably wasn't fully tuned for that either. The Savills chase is a big goal with him. Yeah, and he did it well, and he did a bit more up his sleeve, and the jockeys, he said, lost his whip in the running, and still reeled in, appreciate it quite well. So, yeah, I think there's more to come. Yeah, he's definitely a Gold Cup player.
Speaking of the Gold Cup winner, Galopin Deschamps, the one thing that worried me was his jumping, which has usually been so spectacular, so good, was really, really poor on Sunday.
This is why I was surprised at the start. I expected him to make all in this race.
Yeah.
He didn't. The money came for appreciate it, and it became obvious that they were trying to ride him like he tried to ride him like a Gold Cup steer at the back in a 2.5 mile crawl. It's not going to work.
No.
He's only been beaten 2 lengths, and he's not getting a clear sight. You've got to remember, in the Gold Cup, his jumping wasn't particularly slick. He did lose momentum at quite a few.
Lost a couple, yeah.
Okay, here from Flagfall, it wasn't great, and he was low, and he was always kind of mumping and moaning a bit. But around the bend, I thought, he did show signs of picking up. And then over the last one, it was clearly his chance had gone when he made another mistake. Paul Townend, I think, sensibly he didn't ask for everything there at all. He eased up and accepted his fate. I think there was enough there to glean from it. A bit like Bravemansgame at Wetherby, it could go one way or the other, mind you. I mean, you wouldn't be nailing your colours to the mast saying that he's, oh, don't worry about him. But I wouldn't be saying no, never again. Anything. It was the morbid language of Paul Townend and Willie Mullins at the end that suggested that he was dead underneath and stuff. I mean, that would be more alarming than what I saw in the performance of how disappointed Connections were. But overall, hell mend them for trying to control the race and not getting it right out of 5 from 6.
Do you think they stick to the plan of what they did last season was give him a break until the Irish Gold Cup, or does he need to run at Christmas in the Savills? Could we see him? I doubt he'd probably the one Irish horse I would say is most unlikely to go to the King George. But does he need a run before the Irish Gold Cup to get back into the?
Is the Irish Gold Cup too close to Cheltenham for him to kind of get over that as well? I mean, I think it's kind of taking a step back and reassessing the situation. I do think last season's a plan. I mean, when they carry out these plans, that's what they kind of do. But the fact he's not won this, it's not a grade 1 this season. Did you go Alpine photo route and go Tremor? I mean, he's picking a race there, and then go. I think it would incline to just stick with what he's done and try and defend his Irish. It puts things up in the air for what everyone else do, because when everyone else is marking out to avoid Galopin Deschamps, all of a sudden his schedule's not completely set in stone anymore. So your Jerry Colombs, and they'll have to kind of, if they want to avoid him or take him on earlier than what they want, then they might kind of reassess things. So in that sense, it puts everything up in the air. But yeah, they would have learned a lot more from him if they just sent him out bowling in front and see if he was good enough and made all, and if the engine was there, while trying to get him to race like he did in the Gold Cup over a 2.5 mile thing. Has he kind of lost that kind of, the way they trained him to win a Gold Cup was sensational, but have they switched him off too much? I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking. And I think they would have found out a hell of a lot more about him as a starting point of the season if he raced far more handily. I mean, Fast or Slow, you think he came from nowhere. Fast or Slow was second from 5 out in that race. And he was outpaced by Appreciate It, who has won a Supreme. He does have 2.5 mile pace. And he's just got up the line there and had enough tactical speed to pull it out the fire. So I think the team tactics of Mullins there have completely overcomplicated things. And I think it's backfired. Hence a kind of, a lot of kind of frustration to the surface from Mullins afterwards, saying that he was pretty disappointed. And Paul Tennessee, he was dead inside. I thought that was overly morbid language from the horse, and I think they should be more annoyed at themselves for how they kind of A, lost that race, and B, tactically with the odds-on favourite. I don't think they've learned much, if anything at all. It's left far more questions than answers on every single basis about him.
Yep, that certainly has. And let's move into what's coming up this weekend. We have a couple of Grade 2s on Friday at Newbury to discuss. We have the John Francombe Novices Chase, where we see the return of Hermes Allen, Grade 1 winner last season over hurdles, first start over fences, 5-4. Solid favourite, or are we looking against him?
On his debut, he is the class act if he brings his A game, but he did end last season a little bit of a sour note. He was quite well fancied at Aintree to bounce back from his Cheltenham run. He was a bit flat in third. I think you'd have to try and take him on at these prices. If last week showed you anything, you don't be scared of a price. That's for sure. I like Marble Sands. He ran quite well at Ayr. Where he was very weak in the market, similar price to what he is now, 13 to 2, to 1, big drift from the day. He jumped really well though. I think they clearly needed the run coming here, and he was right on Hermes Allen's tail at Cheltenham as well. So one was 150 to 1, the other was 3 to 1 the day, but I mean it's a bit big quite difference. But I think you'd be inclined to take a chance on him with a run under his belt. No Andre Joe's outside of the lot. I mean, he's got decent form in a Martin Pipe. They're all kind of rated quite close to one each other, so I'll be looking at those two at a price against the favourite here. You would expect in peak form to turn up, but those odds you can leave alone, look elsewhere, I think.
Yeah, I quite like the look of Nickelback. I think he's won some decent decent races in good and soft ground. Won at Warwick this season, beat a horse by 19 lengths. I think at the prices, I think he would be the one to take on against Hermes Allen at 7-2. So I would go with him. 3 o'clock, the long distance hurdle. If you want to look at how bad the British staying division is over hurdles, then this is it. Marie's Rock at 5-6, Paisley Park 11-4, Dashel Drasher 7-2. I am going to have a look at Flight Deck at 20s against here. I think there's holes in all 3 at the top of the market. I think Flight Deck is a proven winner, has had a decent performances at Cheltenham in the past, likes the ground. I think Flight Deck at 20-1 against this fielder might take a wee place.
Yeah, it's a race where you could maybe take a flyer in it. I would expect Marie's Rock to win if she stays it fully. If they don't go too quick, Dashel Drasher might test that theory out, but I think she just outstayed by Sarah early Aintree, was it? And he's a dour stayer. So yeah, it's interesting that Paul Nicholls has put Hugo's new horse in here. He patently didn't act at Cheltenham last day. He was well enough fancied, but he doesn't like that track. Quite a few Nicholls just don't. Affadil was one as well. The great with that hated it. Why you come here and blow a mark of 132 is interesting. Maybe I'm at 33s, 40s wouldn't be too bad either if you wanted, if you're inclined to kind of have a general poke at it. But yeah, Dashel Drasher and Paisley Park, you'd have to think that they're past their best a little bit. I was a bit disappointed in Dashel Drasher's reappearance run as well. I thought it'd be a bit better in behind Botox has the last day. He might have come on for it as well. It's a race where you categorically can't rule out anything because it's so poor for a Grade 2, but the favourite should be hard to beat. And Hugo's new horse, I think, is the most interesting outsider for me.
Moving into Saturday at Newbury, we have the Coral Gold Cup. I nearly called it the Hennessy there for a second. Complete unknown, 6-1 favourite declared. We've got Maller Mission, Monbeg Genius, Stumptown for Gavin Cromwell, Stolen Silver, Ahoy Senor Dusa. Really, really good field has turned up here.
Yeah, it's a good race. Call it a Hennessy all we like.
That's what it
is, rather than all these kind of generic bookmaker name chase and things like that. It's a bit ridiculous. You've got to remember the great history of this game. I brought this down to 3. Top of the market. I like Midnight River the most.
Right.
It's Skelton's second time up. And I thought he ran, okay behind Gentleman's Game, Bravemansgame. In the Charlie Hall, he understandably backed out of it a little bit, but with Ahoy Senor making the weights as they are, off 11-1, 8-year-old second season novice type, he's got decent experience. He's a solid contender for me, so he's on the list. My old friend Cloudy Glen is also on the list.
And I see another one of your old friends in here.
There's plenty of old friends here. Some of them in more rocky relationships than most. But, Chloe Glenn ran really well at Cheltenham behind. He jumped really well up front behind Malin Girl, who looked absolutely chucked in and joined in about halfway. I think the Cromwell horse. If he can get coming back down and trip a little bit in decent ground, I think 25. He's won this race before, only off £2 lower. He's a bit older now, but if he can muscle his way up front and get into that jumping rhythm, he's definitely going to be in the frame if he's on a going day. Thing is, maybe that reappearance thing is kind of he is best fresh, I suppose, and that angle might have gone at Cheltenham. But if it was kind of a run out for this, which it probably is because it's a more valuable race, and he's maintained his form, and if he's even improved from it, he'd be a big player in that. And the other one I like is Twig, Ben Paulings. He was second at Cheltenham last day, ran really well. Prominent racer, battle hardened, scraps really well. I think he's overpriced at 22. So two outsiders, and Midnight River be the main play at the top of the market for me.
I quite like Stolen Silver. Whether ground might be against him, I don't know. But I think Stolen Silver is probably the one I would say I lean towards kind of 11-1. I think Dussart does have a good race in him, but is he going to fight? It's tough if he gets it all his own way. But I would play Stolen Silver and Dussart against the rest of you. But I think that's probably one of the best Hennessy's we've seen for a long time. Good race. Let's move into Newcastle, where we will see the fighting fifth and the return of the one and only Constitution Hill. 1-6. He has a couple of meals to deal with. Love Envoy, You Wear It Well. Not So Sleepy's in there. Benson. It's all about one horse. How excited are we to see him back?
Yeah, it's always great to see superstars. Hopefully the weather plays ball because it's getting quite cold up north, isn't it?
It's
trying to fend that off. He should win without any mishap, didn't he? But again, we've said that before about other horses at odds on, and it hasn't quite gone to plan.
If he wasn't to win, I think it'd be horrible.
Yes, it would. It would be a horrible sinking feeling for everyone involved. Not So Sleepy will make the pace, won't he? I think there's an interesting race here for second. We Love Envoy and You Wear It Well. I mean, you've got the second in the Mayor's Hurdle taking on the Mayor's Novice winner, who's already had a run. Love Envoy's come back from a long absence, a big injury as well.
She hasn't run since Cheltenham, has
she? I think she ran disappointingly in Ireland. She ran in Punchestown and it was 6-6, and that's so she picked up that. I think it was a fractured pelvis, something like that. Pretty serious injury. And, to get back this quickly is pretty impressive. And on those grounds, I don't understand why You Wear It Well is twice the price. A run under her belt over a more suitable 2 miles than this for the forecast slot. I'd be playing her in the forecast market behind Constitution Hill, just for a kind of play in the race. I think she could be setting. Yeah, on rating she's got a lot to find, but I think that Mayor's Novice Hurdle was a good one. She's come out, beat Lucia. Lucia's ran well subsequently in a strong-looking Greatwood Hurdle. She's upcomer youngster in this race. And I think she could pit Love Envoy here for second. Depends how they write it. It's obviously going to get very tactical and stuff, but I think Constitution Hill will win. I think You Wear It Well. It's a bit of value to be runner up for the forecast slot.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of good handicaps as well. We've obviously got Shishkin is entered and declared for the rehearsal handicap chase. 11-8 off 173. There's some decent horses in here. You've got Alexa Galopin, that's all right. They both get entries. A Wave of the Sea, which has been moved to Ben Haslam as well. Shishkin, 11-8 off 173. Do you play him?
No, you can't play him anywhere. That's the point. I mean, any race at the moment, you cannot touch this guy.
I can't believe
this that, and you're also not getting a price for the luxury of him. Maybe not even starting. I mean, I think quite a lot of bookmakers take a lot of criticism here, but I mean, if they didn't void that, I think everybody would be quite on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, it depends what you're like, but I mean, if you backed him again at those odds again, and he did that again, I wouldn't expect my money back again.
No, you shouldn't get your money back.
That's. But I mean, a lot of people would argue you shouldn't get it back in the first place because he's prone to that, and goodwill gestures have kind of saved the day a little bit there. But yeah, it's a shame because I think that bad Grade 2 hurdle that we talked about, if that was on a Saturday, I think he would have went to that just to get a run under his belt. I think there'd been a good chance he would have went there. Nicky has done that with like Chantry House, for instance, horses like that. And he's definitely not averse to just spoon one run. So if it was for fitness purposes, they could have found one there.
Champ, remember the champ running
Champ as
champ
well.
in the Game Spirit.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's things like that. So yeah, this is just a run out. The one I'll be backing is Empire Steel. I think 3 Mile 2 at Kelso was a little bit too far for him. Sandy Thompson Yard are in much better form. He's better off with Elvis Mail at the weights, even though pretty much all out the handicap, but only a few pounds make no sort of difference. Sandy Thompson pulled miracles out at York Hill to win this a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, as a 10-year-old, the Yaller in form, he's probably target this. I think he could do Shishkin here, potentially jumping off or not jumping off. It's made it an entry. I mean, Lahon Press carried a big weight, rated 164 last year, and beat a decent horse in second into Overdrive, who was well handicapped. So, I mean, it can be done by class routes alone here. I mean, you're knocking quite a lot of horses here out the handicap. I mean, there's 17 meant to be going to this. Now there's only 8 because of his presence, and you can't get a stick man into ride. You can't get people down to 8 stone and malnourished jockeys in that fashion. So it's maybe a bit clever in doing that. But yeah, Shishkin's just. I mean, you don't know. You do not know. You're playing the price here, and the price says no. So I'm happy to kind of have a poke at Empire Steel and hope the goodwill gestures don't occur this week if he does the same.
Hopefully not. Let's move into Fairyhouse. 3 really good races as always at Fairyhouse on Sunday. We start with the Royal Bond Lobster hurdle over 2 miles. Nothing declared yet, but Anto Bar leads the market for Henry de Bromhead at 9-4. You have Canto Bruno at 5-2. Slate Steel was in here as well. You've got the likes of Facile Mode, What's Up Darling. It's probably not as good a Royal Bond as we've seen in recent years, but I think Anto Bar could be probably better than all these.
So do I. Yeah, particularly if it's soft, and it looks like it's going to be that way. So still rain about, and it's soft at the moment. In Canto Bruno, all his best form was in quicker ground. And he looked like he didn't need to come back and trip, did he? I haven't seen him at Cheltenham, which isn't a strong race. But Antubar, yeah, he's got a lot to find in raw figures, but he's definitely got the most potential here. I think he's going to go here and Slade Steel won't.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of likely. I mean, Antubar could be the 2 mile and Slade Steel could be the 2.5 mile at the end of the day. That's how they might play it out. There's an important form boost for Fan and Glory later today at Thurles that might frank it a little bit more. Out the rest, I think What's Up Darling might be the most interesting Elliott horse. He's kind of a speed horse. If it does turn into a crawl and turns into a race of turn of foot, he might be the one that benefits from that because quite a few of them shape as if they already need further. But yeah, it's not a vintage renewal.
Yeah, let's move into the Drinmore. I think this is a vintage renewal of this race. You have, I think, a really good fields turning up for this if they all go. Let's be clear about it. 7-4, found a 9-4. Sharjah could the 10-year-old do it at 5-2. You've got I Am Maximus in here. I don't think we'll see Favre de Champ do American Mike. I don't think we'll see him either. But this is really hard to split. I think you can make cases for every single horse in the top 3.
Yeah, I like Found a 50. I think there's a big performance in him, and usually we like 2.5 milers. It comes in a Drinmore. I think he can really state how good he is. It didn't quite work out last season for him, but he still ran Corbett's Cross to a neck, who subsequently looked like the winner of the Albert Bartlett last season. He's had one bad run at Aintree where he was backed into joint favouritism for a Grade 1 from kind of nowhere. And then we can battle out of it. And Elliott just lost a bit of patience and threw him in at punches down, probably unwisely, and he didn't run his race there. He's put those fears to bed with a good beginner's chase debut. I know half the fences were taken out at Down Royal, and Colonel Mustard, who does run the day before
Yep.
in Britain, in Newbury, in the John Frankham. He's a good horse. I mean, and that taking out all the fences would have helped him kind of close the gap, make it a speed test. I know Calum Muscle doesn't win a lot, but he's got a good lot of high class place Grade 1 form of hurdles in behind. He's a quick horse, and found the 50 just powered away in the last 2-3 furlongs quite easily. And I was impressed how far he hit the line. Well, there's not a lot to split in form with. Let's be clear about it. But I think the 6-year-old against the 8-year-olds, I would think found the 50 might have a bit more potential in him, and he might win this. Sharjah, 2.5 mile on soft ground. It's not his bag, is it?
Nah, I wouldn't have thought so. But I think
he's a class act. He's undoubtedly
he's a class act.
But he's a spring horse that wants it quicker than this, I would think. And if it becomes attritional, Iron Maximus has the rating to play a part. It's just whether he's going to be quick enough. You'd have to say you doubt it. It looks between the top two, and I would side with Found the 50 because I kind of hope he wins more, because I think he's the one that ought to have a bit more potential.
Yeah, I think Found the 50 I would lean towards him as well. Hatton's Grace Hurdle, this could be really good if both Imperi Pass and Tia Hoopu turn up. It's over 2.5, and I think this either goes one or two ways. If it turns into a speed contest, Imperi Pass wins. If it turns into what it was last year, I think Tia Hoopu wins. I think it's that simple.
I think it's as simple as who's going to be tuned up for it and who won't be. And I think and Tia Hoopu's a better price, and it's going to be soft ground, and I'm going to be back in Tia Hoopu.
Do you think? Well, you obviously fancy him for the Stairs Hurdle. If he gets done for a bit of Toby and Perry Pass, it only help. It wouldn't be a dampener on him at all.
I just think the price is wrong, and you're looking at the form of the yards as well, and you're thinking, I mean, you know what Tia Hoopu will do. I mean, last year's race was better than this. It was like, he's beaten undercooked honeysuckle. He still won the Mayor's Hurdle. He was a 3-time champion of this. Apple Steed won this 3 times in a row. Honeysuckle won it 3 times in a row. It's a race that tends to go to the same kind of horses that are plotted in the same kind of way. And I just think they're both still rated 160.
Mm-hmm.
The price differential. I know Imperi Pass get all this enormous potential, and he could be a superstar, but that is good. He's not done it in open company yet. 46 playing 11-4. I think it's too big. You get a lot of unfair pelters in the Stairs Hurdle for me, and I think there's just an orderly cue to kind of take this horse on as if he's a bit of a dodge pot. I think he just needs to be delivered fast and late, like quite a few did. I mean, he didn't duck it in the Hatton's Grace when he won. His win record is 8 from 13. He's no hound.
No.
And he got a shocking ride in the Stairs Hurdle where I think he could have won on another day. And he was by far the most inexperienced horse in the whole field. He's still got a high bar. He's a high rating. I'm a bit perplexed by how people are kind of queuing up to take these kind of Crambles on and things like that. I mean, Cramble's not beating him. I mean, if he's a dodge pot or not, he's just not that class of horse. So I just think people are scratching their heads over the market and trying to find ways to kind of bring him down a little bit when actually he's there on merit, and I think he's still got room to improve. He's only a 6-year-old as well himself. So I would really like to hope that he can serve it up to Imperi Pass and make a really good race of it, because I think he's a horse that doesn't get the respect he deserves.
No, absolutely. I think that's fair enough. I do think I'll wait until the day and how the market is. I know that sounds silly, but I just think it's one of those races you can understand.
The market's going to be very informative, isn't it, on the day? In races like that. I mean, if Imperi Pass goes out to evens, it's a sign of that he's probably not fit. And
I would take Tia Hoopu if he goes in price, just because.
With Tia Hoopu, it's pretty notable in the paddock if he's fully tuned or not. And I'd expect him to be quite forward because his campaign's pretty much set in stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Imperi Pass, there's maybe a little bit more wiggle room with him, so that might be a starting point. And it's 2 mile 4.5. It's going to take some getting. We know he can in the Ballymore, so that shouldn't be a doubt. It's just whether he's going to be really fully revved up for this against let's be honest, a quality opponent in Tia Hoopu. So it should be a good match race between the pair.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. What would you say is your kind of nap for the weekend?
Midnight River and the Hennessy.
Brilliant. I am going to say probably Stolen Silver and the Hennessy. So let's move into the big point. Callum, it's something we spoke about for a while when we went off air last week. I think it's time we have to have a look at the calendar.
Yes, particularly the jumps one. Yeah, I think we saw that in the Betfair Chase and in Ascot on Saturday. There's and trainers are coming out and saying it. I mean, Donald McCain said, Dan Skelton's come out and said it. Everyone kind of knows what the problem is, but nobody's kind of got the strength to kind of go in and address it. Collective action is desperately needed to kind of sort this calendar out. I mean, there is 2024. There are changes. They are trimming the edges a little bit. It's small tinkers here, there, and everywhere. That just won't cut it at this rate. I think there's like 39 runners in total at Ascot a Saturday card. That's nowhere near good enough. We need to. 1965 Chase and the Betfair Chase are too similar. We can go one or the other. And I think Shishkin's ultimately proved that. Okay, it's taking a bit of an act of desperation to kind of show it. But when something goes wrong there, all of a sudden you're snookered for your King George plan, because it's supposed to be. It's a season programme. The Gold Cup horse. It's set in stone. There shouldn't be this alternative that's there to kind of be a cover and prevent matchups before the King George. It's not how it worked, back in the day. Back in the day, there were small field races. I mean, it's not changed. Some you will get some, but there's too many novice types. And I don't think there's enough catering for their own kind of track needs. I mean, we were talking about the Scottish setup. We haven't been racing up here for about 2 weeks in the calendar, and now we've got Kelso yesterday, Musselburgh today and tomorrow, and Ayr Monday. And then you've got Newcastle up there on Saturday, and it was a Grade 1 meeting. So what are you going to track there?
Yeah.
So why have you got five meetings in about 6 days up north when we've had about 1 or 2 in 2 weeks? It's totally warped. I know quite a lot. You need to have an element of protection Saturday, but yeah, I don't think we need any more than 3 meetings in a weekday. I don't think we need 8 mid-card race cards, particularly in all weather, where it's just there for betting purposes. There's talk on Saturday that there might be a civil card because Newcastle might be called off, an all weather card when they're supposed to. That's their only week off of the whole season, and it's being affected because we feel obliged to put something on just for the sake of betting purposes, and that's what it is.
100%.
It's just put a meeting on for betting, and now we're getting the affordability checks up to 100,000. Things like that. I think racing slowly realising how important if betting differential has got so much say in the calendar, and why are we not waking up to these betting checks and punters that have been over the heads of them for 3-4 years, not 3 or 4 months. It's going to take trainers, owners, race courses, authorities to really get together and really look at the programme and trim it. We need to get rid of these pointless Grade 2s that clash with Grade 1s that are far too similar and give options elsewhere. There's too many novice chases that are uncompetitive. The class system needs a rapid rethink. And I think you can have 6 race days. If you don't have a graded race in the card, I think you can have 6 races alone. And give race courses a bit more scope. I mean, Ayr, my local track, knows what it's got and it knows what you handle, so it can cater the race card to what it is. I mean, it's going to be mostly low grade stuff, and it's going to be horses that are running at a certain ability over a certain obstacle over a certain trip. So just put more of those races on for that track, and just cater that and do it all over the place. So I mean, you've got like maybe one up north, one up south, and a Premier meeting. Premierisation could actually work in this context if you actually schedule the days around the calendar. You could have one up north, one down south, and maybe your Premier meeting anywhere else, and maybe an all-weather card at night. To keep those happy as well. So, but it does need tailored to the modern day a little bit. You can't keep kind of this kind of. It doesn't. The horse population isn't that high anyway, and the calendar is high. We're putting on too many races for too few horses across the board. It's simple as that, and it does need a kind of total revamp, and I think the penny is beginning to drop now that these wee minor tweaks, albeit pretty welcome, it probably isn't enough because we're still getting, there've been 2 match races last week, didn't we, and 1 walkover, which is just no good, and it puts people off. I mean, it puts people off, long term. I mean, if you're not in the industry, if you're just a punter outside in, I mean, how can you bet on this?
No.
You're getting shocking prices after shocking prices. Um, it's very hard to kind of make things worthwhile as a spectacle, which is grim in its own right. So I don't think anyone's enjoying it at the moment too much. Obviously, we still love racing and things, but just as a kind of spectacle and as a product, things do need to change, and everyone's seeing it, and hopefully they can all get together and kind of try and drop a more kind of competitive and fair program that's going to help everybody.
You mentioned, you've covered that excellent there, and I don't really need to add anything else. I want to just mention before we get into our selections, looking at Boxing Day this year, and Boxing Day is always a mental day for racing, but you've got a full card at Kempton, 3 Grade 1s. You now have this entry card with the Tolworth the Formby. You've got Weatherby. You've then got obviously two meetings in Ireland, and then you've got Wincanton, Market Raising, Fontwell, Sedgefield, and Wolverhampton. Do we need all that in one day? Do you know what I mean? Like that, like things like that. I get why they do it, but to me, that isn't necessary.
It's a bit like tradition, isn't it? In the way that and you'll have the same kind of thing at New Year, where I think Musselburgh's quite prominent. New Year, Ayer's got one in the second, I think. So these bank holidays tend to be quite well targeted. So I do get that, but what I don't understand is the week before it. If you want to race Boxing Day and everyone go to their separate individual tracks, so that's absolutely fine, and it can be a kind of sporting bonanza things. Just have a week. I don't see a problem. Like even 4 or 5 days either side of Christmas and either side of New Year off, and everyone can kind of decompress a little bit at the start of January or the middle of December, because everything must be running there in that window, in that week's window between Christmas and New Year anyway. So I think 4 or 5 day break either side of it on both ends would be fine, and then you can everyone has an opportunity to kind of digest these things and think on. But I've got a bit more sympathy for days around kind of like bank holidays and things and work like that, because race courses do need to kind of make their own bob, and Saturdays is their window, and the premierisation thing won't help when it's ridiculously early starts or ridiculously late starts. So I would give them some scope for it, but there are certain days like where it's just completely no need, particularly rescheduling things. I mean, I don't think we need BHA had one out today. If Newcastle's off, Southall, who you can't actually get in as a race score anyway. You can't go in there. It's been revamped, so it's obviously just there for betting purposes, and it's kind of a jumpers bumpers meeting. Which I mean, I don't think it's that suitable. I don't think stable staff will be impressed either. Doing that. So maybe a little bit more thought into the welfare things and how the calendar kind of looks would help. But it's not easy. It's not going to be things are in the decline a little bit. I think the prize money fears for 2024 are quite high. I think that might dip. So there are problems there, and I'm not expecting a whole new calendar by 2025 and I think, wow, everything works. It's not going to work like that. We're still going to get poor days racing and Saturdays that don't quite work, and clashes here and everywhere, but there's got to be less of them, because you're feeling that you're feeling that kind of coming about almost every Saturday, and you're kind of thinking, why is that on? There's no motivation for me to look through this card from a betting standpoint of view. I mean, that's how I get into it is betting. I mean, everyone's talking about there's a brilliant column Dominic King's in the Mail and things like that. It's Sir Alex Ferguson's now the kind of default ambassador for horse racing in Britain. Once the Queen passed away, and then rightfully so. How did he get into betting? I went to Glasgow putting his Yankees and Lucky 15s on for his granddad in Glasgow. That's how he got into it. So I mean, everyone else is still getting into that. You can't ignore, just because it's kind of a little bit of a dirty word in society now. You can't ignore the impact that betting has in getting people into this sport, and nobody else has come up with an alternate revenue stream. Hence the late backlash to this gambling check stuff. So if the calendar doesn't tailor to them and they're getting restricted, they'll either sack it off or bet some other sports. There's plenty of other sports with better value out there that you can choose from if you want to do your homework and if you want to do your problem solving that way. And that's what appeals to people. And racing's in trouble of not finding a new audience and also beginning to lose their core audience a little bit, which is big concern. And addressing the balance in the calendar would help a great deal.
It certainly would. And we will move into our selections. I don't have an anti-post pick for Cheltenham this week, Calum, and I promise we'll have one next week. What about yourself? Are you anything in the pipeline for an anti-post market to look at?
Anti-post, yes. Not for Cheltenham.
Oh.
It's King George.
Right.
It's 40-1, and it's Hewitt each way.
Okay. Did not see that coming.
Now, this market is a very exciting market after what happened on the weekend. Bravemansgame, you'd stolen money at the moment to back him anyway. You definitely need a positive bulletin from Paul Nicholls to give any kind of trust, but that's two disappointing runs off the bridle, and I think there's horses that might come here now that are good enough to go here. Jerry Colombe's been smashed in from 10s into 11 to 4. Might go here. If he does go here, I think it's completely unsuitable. As a kind of staying test, you think, well, he might be classy enough to overcome it, and Steers have won this in the past, and Gordon Elliott came over here with Don Cossack, who looked like he was going to win it and then fell. Subsequently won the Gold Cup anyway, so it's not a bad prep. They could come over here. I think it's still a little bit more unlikely. I think it's more unlikely than it is that he would come over here. Allaho, I don't think will come either. I think there's a kind of soft plan for him around Thurles and places like that, and onto the Ryanair. So I think it's going to be soft with him. Galopin Deschamps, very unlikely, although maybe a bit more possible than it was, but I don't think he'll come here either. And then you're into kind of Edwardstone territory, Pick Dorhy, things like that. Lahome Press, who I don't think will make it. Shishkin, yeah, if fit, but it's a big ask anyway. And he jumped horribly left throughout, and he was still pitching, credit to him and all that. But I'd be more afraid of Royal Pagaille in that race. But he would need it soft. Shishkin, who knows? Can't trust him anyway. The real whacker he was struck into, you'd be amazed if he was able to turn up here and peak form. I don't know why he's 16s anyway. Pick Dorhy, probably a doubtful stare. It's a question that he's going to be good enough anyway. Edwardstone, do you go up to 3 miles straight away? Probably not. Protect to that. It's ran deplorably the last 3 times, to be honest. The Midnight River, actually interesting. If he wins that, he could come here, but it's a bit of an ask there. People are poking away at Frodon even at big prices. That's how wide open it was. Surely he's too old. So
I think that's the end of racing if Frodon wins. No disrespect, but if Frodon wins a King George in 2023, enough's enough.
There's worse ridiculous things and all, but the case for Hewitt is there in the case that everyone else is kind of a little bit vulnerable most to prove. He's rated 170 in his pomp. They just went. They knew how good he was, so they just went globetrotting and went prize hunting, and they weren't selective with things. Sharp Cannon said they'd be more selective this year with him. His 2 best performances, both been wins at Sandown right-hand tracks. Bet365 Gold Cup, absolutely bolted up.
Yeah,
won by 16 left. So that was the performance that lifted him from kind of general obscurity into kind of these kind of higher ranks. He absolutely smashed a decent field that day. It's always a competitive handicap. Off 149 as well. Bolted up. He won by 8 lengths from Musical Slave. Kitty's Light was third. Won a Scottish National. Captain Ord as well who's won these kind of types of races in the past. So it was good kind of handicap form that got him into mid 150s territory. He was running really well in the Gold Cup. Threatened to get a second wind up front where he was a 40-1 rogue outsider, ground that was far too soft for him. He was still running really well, jumping really well as well. I thought it was a bold sight, but the most interesting aspect of that is that when everyone else in that Gold Cup has struggled to run even reasonably well subsequently, he came out a month later in a Sandown Group 2 conceding weight a little bit, and won quite well and easily. I know it was a Grade 2 first flow was his opponent, but I mean, he was backed into 65.
Do you forgive his run in the Galway plate?
After a massive weight off that, in a handicap, definitely. He was off, what, 167 that day?
Yeah.
And he also had a run in France before that when he was fourth in a champion hurdle, which was a French champion hurdle, which was very soft ground, which wouldn't have suited, and he was still there and get left behind in the turn, which is fine. He's won an American National. He's won off 155 in the Galway plate the year before that. I think they went price hunt a little bit too much for him, and he's been given a break since Galway reasonably. Shark Hanlon said that he's still at the top of his game. He's going to be very selective of where to go next because they're only prize hunting and they can win race. Now, his best performances, I think you could probably include the Gold Cup, were those two Sandown efforts as well. And obviously the Galway plate run where he won off 155. He's admirably consistent. His rating is up there, 167, for instance. They've been in 170's peak. Shishkin's rated 173, Royal Pagaille 160. Long Press 170, Bravemansgame 172. He's not far away on his peak efforts on his day. He's also versatile. Ground generally doesn't matter. He's got, if you win American National over 2 mile 5, a 3 mile quirky kind of Kempton King George track's fine. He's won twice going right-handed at Sandown. I think if they pitch up here and it's a race that can cut up, it's anyone's guess whether he'll actually go. But you're taking 40-1 each way.
Be some story as well, wouldn't it? It'd be one of those Shark Hanlon winning a King George. That'd be a story.
And he's only an 8-year-old, and you think he's been around forever. So he's not like Frodo on age, where he's 11 or 12, and he's showing signs of the downgrade. I think they just kind of were maybe a wee bit greedy towards the end of the season with him a little bit and trying to get as much money as he can possibly. And I think they've found that actually this horse doesn't owe us anything. We'll just go to races that might suit him, and he might have good opportunity. And off that rating, he's not got many more places to go unless he stays at home. And they like travelling. And I think this would be a great price to go for. I think it's imminently. I can see him in the top 3 at the moment, without a doubt. And I think, it's just the price. I think it should be more of a 20-1 chance than a 40-1 chance. Maybe that's priced in because he might not go. But the last time Shark Hanlon spoke, they were pretty open to anything, and I think there must be a distinct possibility that he could end up here when quite a lot of others from Ireland won't. There's no reason for him, and he's been ridden by John Gainford, Rachel Blackmore, anybody. It's not as if you'd be concerned who'd be on him. So I would. He's by far the most interesting horse in the field at these prices at the moment, in a market where it's anyone's guess. And it's cherry right to have a flyer at something, and you're not waiting 3 months to March to get there. You're only waiting another month to Boxing Day. So first anti-post Bent Road to Cheltenham's one for the King George at 40s.
I like it. I didn't see it coming. I didn't think, but now I look at it, I think it could be perfect for him. I think it's something to keep an eye on to see if there's any word about where he goes. But
it's 40-1. It's 40-1. I'd have him over Edwardstone. I'd have him over Pictoria. I'd have him over the Real Wacker. Galopin the Champ won't go. I'd have him over Royal Pagaille. Long Press, I don't think he'll be fit enough to go. Shishkin, who knows? Allaho probably still won't go. Jerry Calum might still not go. Bravemansgame has got a lot to prove. That's it. I think he can form a decent case, and he's 40s.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. It's a good pick, and it's been if we're here, if on the 27th and Hewitt's won the King George, I think we could have a wee celebration on this show. But no, it's been a pleasure as always, Calum. We will have a Cheltenham pick next week, and we're going to wrap up the show there. Calum, it's always a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, will do. That's how far outside the box I've had to think to actually try and come up with something decent there. So, hopefully it pays off in some instances. It'll be interesting nonetheless whether it happens. It'll either be laughably bad or he won't go, or the unthinkable could happen. But that's the beauty of the game.
That's what we love. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And we'll see you all soon. Cheers.